What's up, guys? Chad here. I've made well over 50,000 cold calls in tech sales. And this is the number one thing that allowed me to generate over $900,000 in annual recurring revenue, close to $1 million in recurring revenue, in one of the most competitive companies in the space, HubSpot, just as a SDR. And this is the script that I used. This script, don't downplay this, okay? I've built this script over many, many years, 3 years about in tech sales. I've run trainings on this. I've trained tons of new hires and got them up to speed on how to cold call effectively to generate pipeline, money for the company, but also money for you and money in your pocket if you're trying to make money in tech sales and want to kind of simplify this cold call thing. I've been a top performer many, many times consecutively as a SDR, also an account executive. And this script, this way of calling that I'm going to share with you and break down in this video is what allowed me to be so successful and what allowed me to become a top performer. Even at the account executive level, once you promote eventually, it's all about opening up deals. If you can open up enough deals, which the number one way to do that is mastering the cold call, then you can close it. Okay, you can close enough. It's all about opening up deals, generating pipeline. If you can get good at this skill, it doesn't matter where you are. You're going to be able to generate money from thin air. Okay, hypothetically. So let's break it down. I'm going to really dumb this down for you in a simple way. And if you guys stay till the end of this video, I'm going to give you a chance to download the free script that you can use in a document and just follow along, whether you're trying to break into tech sales and want to use that for your mock call during the interview to impress them and crush your interview, or if you're already in tech sales and you want to just simplify calling and use something that works, that's proven to work. All right, so the first thing that I want to start out with is, what is the goal of a cold call, right? Because the way that we want to do this is we want to understand the outcome that we're looking for, right? A lot of people in the sales space, and honestly, I think it's bad advice, but a lot of people are like, it's just a conversation, don't worry about it, or just have a conversation. It's just a human being, right? But that's not helpful, right? Yes, you're having a conversation with somebody, but let's not lie to ourselves. There's an outcome we're after, and that outcome is one thing, okay? There's only one goal of a cold call, and that is booking a meeting, okay? If you're new to this, basically SDRs in tech sales is the entry-level role. You book meetings for account executives, which close the deals, okay? Your job is not to sell the product of the company you're working for. It's to sell the meeting, okay? And this is why this is such a easy skill to get into and sharpen and make your first, 5, 6, maybe 6 figures even in this role, which I've done, by the way, and taken it in SDR alone before promoting to account executive. But all you're doing is having a conversation with somebody with an outcome in mind to book a meeting to an account executive on your team where they're going to go deeper into the product and see if it makes sense to move forward with an investment to purchase. Okay, so all you're doing in a cold call is just selling the meeting. And that can take a lot of the pressure off, right? You don't have to sell them on the product or be like, we're the best. You just have to sell the meeting. Does it even make sense to have a chat at least about this so that we can see if this is something that could really help you out, right? It can be really easy to book meetings, okay? And that can mean more cash for you, the better you get at it, and more cash for the company. So there's a few phases in this script, and this is honestly one of the best flows of a call. A lot of people can get lost in the call, right? Sometimes, like, everyone knows that a cold call has an opener, right? But what do you do after that? How do you lead the conversation to the right outcome? Because if you're just having a conversation, you're going to get scattered. You're going to get lost. You're going to not know where the conversation is, where you're at. And so you really need a script, especially if you're a beginner, and you need to understand what points you need to hit to get to that outcome so that you can make money. The first stage in that script is pre-research, okay? And this is the difference between having a cold call, which, by the way, I don't even like that term. I like to think of these calls as a warm call. And if you're doing them correctly, it should be warm, okay? And what do I mean by that? For example, everybody's first impression about cold calls is like when you get a random number call your phone and it's like a telemarketer just like, hey, by the way, you're eligible for this and that. Okay, that's not what we're doing here. And if your first impression is that when you think about tech sales, cold calls, it's completely the opposite. Okay, there's a way where you can make calls so warm, and I'm going to show you how to do that here easily, that it doesn't feel like a cold call to people. It feels genuine. You feel you're in integrity to give somebody a call. And I've had people personally tell me after calling using these strategies, I'm so grateful that I picked up the phone because now my life has changed, right? And that's a great feeling. And that goes to show that the cold call and mastering it, or the warm call as we're going to learn, is one of the best skills you can learn, okay? So the first step is pre-research, okay? Before making any cold call, the cold call starts before you get on the phone. The cold call starts before you dial the phone. Why? Because we need to know a little bit about who we're speaking to, and that's the first thing you want to find out before you make any calls. Who are you speaking to? Who are they? In tech sales, a lot of times you're going to be in business to business selling, meaning you're going to be calling people who are at other companies to present your service or product to. But it doesn't matter if you're selling to consumers as well. It's the same thing, essentially. Don't worry about it, guys. We're selling to people. We're calling people. But you need to know who that is, right? For example, if you're selling to another business, let's take sales software, just because this is so simple and we're learning about sales. There's tons of sales software out there that allows people to keep track of their communications, keep track of their deals, keep track of the amount of calls they make. And businesses pay for this sales software so that they can make sure that they have accurate data and they're able to scale and know what's working, what's not. And so for this example, who do we want to call, right? We don't want to call just everybody. We want to call people who are interested in that sales software, who are potentially interested in that, who are potentially able to even purchase that, right? We don't just want to call salespeople potentially. We want to call sales managers probably, right? People who are overseeing the sales motion at a company, right? People who are hiring sales reps. And so we need to know who we're speaking to. We need to know what their job title is, what their role is. And this is something you find out when you get into a company, and every company has a specific ICP, or said otherwise, a specific ideal client profile, an ideal person, an ideal persona that your company sells to, that's the best fit. That person is the best fit for the software that you sell in tech, okay? If that makes sense to you. So we just want to know who we're speaking to, because that's going to help us be relevant and warm, okay? If we don't know who we're speaking to, how can we have a warm conversation? They're going to be like, oh, you don't even know who I am, don't call me, right? So we're avoiding that. The other thing you want to note down is something of relevance, just something of relevance, anything of relevance that can help make this conversation warmer. It could be about them, it could be about the company they work for. Maybe they just got promoted, right? And that's something that you can just use to be personalized, relevant. A lot of times there's a saying in the tech sales space, if you can show someone you know them, that's how you can get in the conversation. Show them you know them. And so this can really be anything of relevance that just shows them, wow, this is another person who did their research on me. They're not just calling out of the blue, wanting something from me. They did their research. I'm going to give them at least a few minutes of my time. That's what we're going for, okay? So call out something of relevance. You can find this stuff on LinkedIn. Look at someone's LinkedIn profile. Maybe they got promoted. Maybe they went to the same school as you. Maybe they're in the same town as you. You can look for any insights also that may indicate a potential goal or problem that your software can support. For example, sales software. We're selling sales software for a company. Example. I found a sales manager at a company that I want to try and cold call and see if it makes sense to book them on a meeting. And I identified that this person, maybe through just looking at the company on the website or looking at the company LinkedIn page, that they have brand new sales reps, okay? Maybe that's something I can call out that may indicate a potential problem. For example, if this company just hired on sales reps for the first time, they probably need a software to track the performance of these new reps and see how they're performing. Are they making the amount of calls they need? Are they actually bringing in revenue? Are they bringing in quality meetings that lead to revenue, right? Sales managers are going to want to see that. And so that can be something of relevance that I can look at and identify that can help me make this a warm call, you see? So what you want to do is, after you just get those two simple things, something of relevance, know who you're speaking to, get the job title or just something about them, and note it down somewhere before you call them so that you can have it with you when you actually go to make that call. And I'm a big fan of splitting up chunks of my day and focusing on one thing at a time. And so usually what I would do in tech is I would get a huge list of like quality leads that I've researched, and each time I found one, I would just note down these two things, right? And I wouldn't call them right away. I would wait until I called at a certain time, because later I would go back to my lead list and I'd have some notes on each person I found, and then I would just be able to rip through them, okay? And that's this next phase of what we're talking about. And this is just a PS as well. It's helpful when you get into a company or even before, it's helpful to know the top one, two, or three specific problems that your company that you're working for, that you're selling for, helps solve. Okay, this is going to be helpful to use in the conversation for later, as you're going to see. Just booping in here, guys, if you want to follow along and download this guide for yourself, it has the entire walkthrough that I'm going through, but also at the bottom, as you'll see later, it has a whole word for word script that you can have beside you, whether you're doing a mock call for your interview or whether you're in tech sales and trying to crush it. Download that in one of the links in the description, so check that out. So once we've done the pre-research, like I've said, and however you do that, whether you make a list and you jot down notes, however you do that, every company is going to be different, but I'm telling you, that's a cheat code. Once you do that and you have pre-research on a decent chunk of prospects, we move to actually going to making calls, okay? And this is where we go into the opener. Okay, now the opener is one of the most critical pieces of a cold call. It's kind of like emails. Like if you don't have a good email opener subject line, you're not going to click the email, and therefore you're not going to see any of the content at all, and it's going to be a waste of an email because you didn't open it. We can't get these people to accept that we're calling them and give us the time of day to actually tell them why we called, we're never going to be able to pitch anything. We're never going to be able to pitch a meeting or see if it makes sense for that person to even have a chat with us. And so the opener is so critical. And what I like to do is actually automate this, okay? Because a lot of times, especially when you're starting out, there can be a ton of resistance to making a cold call, okay? And the biggest reason for that is just uncertainty on what to say. And so if you can at least automate the beginning few 10 seconds or so, that's going to help you really start getting reps and reps and reps and getting more comfortable in your nervous system to making calls, right? And that's going to help you succeed and be a top performer quicker. So I like to automate the opener. This is one that I used kind of religiously, okay? And this works. And the biggest thing you want to do, the biggest principle in your openers can be different. The biggest thing you want to do is just have a pattern interrupt. Okay, and this is the specific one that I like, but a pattern interrupt can be anything. For example, there's so many people that are just like having robotic cold calls, like literally like I was talking before, the example of a telemarketer, and nobody listens to that. It instantly in their brain just signals to them sales tactics. Oh, this person is just trying to sell me something. You want to avoid that, and pattern interrupt is the best way to do it. It can be as simple as just sounding human versus like, hey, I'm just calling you out of the blue, you're eligible for this. It can be just like, hey, James, yeah, this is actually Chad. I know this is out of the blue, but just calling from company. I did some research on you, and I just wanted to see if you had a couple minutes. Human. Okay, but this is one that I like to use that you could automate and do every single time, and this converts really well. People will give you the time of day if you do this correctly, okay? James, hey, this is actually just Chad calling from company giving you a quick call. Or, hey, James, this is actually just Chad from company giving you a quick call. Pause. Okay, the pause is a pattern interrupt. Usually, people are going to be expecting a dump. They're going to be expecting a dump of some sort. Okay, they're gonna be expecting, by the way, I'm calling because of this, I want to sell you this best product, right? Whatever that sounds like. If you pause, they're gonna be like, huh? Yeah, what can I do for you, right? It's gonna be a little interesting to them. And then you could be, yeah, I know I'm totally calling you out of the blue right now. Is it a bad time? And what this does is it lowers their friction. It lowers the friction. It disarms them. It helps them get the perception that they're in control of the conversation, and it gives you permission to speak to them instead of you just forcing yourself on them. You see, so this is so powerful, and if you can nail this every time, it's going to be huge. Now, from here, they may say, yes, it is a bad time. It's rare, actually, because this is a very disarming way if you say it how I'm saying it. And if they say, yeah, it's a bad time, just be like, I'm always calling people at the worst time. Look, do you have 30 seconds to see if it maybe makes sense for me to give you a call back? I'd hate to waste your time. Right? You could say something like that, okay? And that usually will help you get past it, and then you move into the next stage, which we're going to go into. But if they say, no, it's not a bad time, which usually they will, then you could just say, great. Well, I'll be brief anyways. And then we move into the next section, step 3, which is giving them your reason for calling, okay? Okay, so what is a reason for calling? It's as simple as that. It's a reason for calling. And if you have a good reason for calling somebody, they're going to be more likely to give you the time of day. So your reason for calling should have 3 pieces. The first one, piece 1, is the principle that I was saying before. Show me you know me. And this is what we need to have in the first section, okay? So I used to get so good at these 3 things that I didn't even need to write down a reason for calling. Now, it may be helpful for you to kind of write down a reason for calling, or at least have some notes or a couple words for each person under each of these for a reason for calling. And eventually I got to the point where I was like, okay, let me go into show them I know them. Let me try and inject potential problems, and let me go into just let me ask an open-ended question and just let them know why I'm calling and my intention for calling and the outcome I'm intending. Okay, so I used to get so good at this that it just became boop, 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 boop. And that's what allowed me to do such a high volume of activity and be a top performer in activity, and also generated pipeline, and also closed one pipeline that I've generated as an SDR that closed, right? And that's what I'm talking about when I'm saying that this script alone generated over 900,000, close to $1 million in annual recurring revenue that closed, not to mention the amount that I opened up that maybe the deals didn't close, and there's always going to be a lot of that, okay? That's just the name of the game. So the first piece is we go into using the pre-research to just call out the things that we noted down. So I would go, great, I'll be brief anyways. Well, look, the reason I'm calling and reaching out is I saw you were the sales manager at company, and after taking a look at your LinkedIn and company website, I noticed you've been the sales manager for like 5 years, and it actually looks like you hired on a few new reps recently, right? So I'm using the intel that we used in our example for noting down who it is, and also something of relevance, because this is now warm. They're going, whoa, they did their research. So then I would directly go into the injecting potential problems, okay? I want to help them be aware of problems. Sometimes people don't even know they have problems, guys, and so it can be helpful to just inject some into the conversation early on, right? So I would go, and by the way, I speak with a lot of sales managers in the X space, like whatever industry they're in, and usually when they hire on new reps, it can be hard to keep track of sales metrics, keep track of quotas, dashboards. It can be hard to track the performance of reps and revenue generated from those reps to accurately assess their performance. And then that's what I would do. So I'm injecting some problems in there before we even get into the conversation, right? So that it might hit on something. It might hit on them going, oh, shoot, yeah, I didn't even realize that we didn't have something for that, right? And then you go straight into, so really, I'm just curious how you were currently handling that, if you were experiencing any of those issues, and if it might make sense to schedule a more planned time to have a quick conversation to see how we might be able to help out, right? To see how we might be able to help out. I'm using kind of disarming language, you see? It's not about high pressure. It's not about forcing. I know a lot of guys, and I've done this for a long time, you literally putting their feet up on the table making calls, and they have better performance because of it, because it just helps them access a natural energy. And the more human and natural you are, the better vibes they're going to pick up on the phone, guys. This is all energetic, by the way, okay? The more desperate you are and the more you have quota breath, it's going to be, they're going to smell it. They're going to sense it. They're going to want to get off the phone, okay? This is huge. This is huge. Okay, so these 3 pieces in the reason for calling, and then once you deliver this, you just pause, okay? You show them you know them, you inject potential problems, and this is what I said before. It's helpful to break down, and you could just use AI if you're doing a mock call for a company. What are the top 3 problems this company solves, and who do they help, right? You can use that and inject those potential problems into the reason for calling, and then just leave it open and clarify your intention, right? I'm curious if you were experiencing that and if it might make sense to schedule a more planned time to have a conversation about it, to see if we could even help, right? So it's so disarming, and this is how you deliver a fire reason for calling. I promise you, if you do this, you're going to see your numbers go up. Now, sometimes this doesn't land, okay? And I'm here giving you guys everything. I'm giving you guys the whole sauce. Sometimes it's not going to land, okay? And there's two options you have. There's two reasons why this might not land as well. But the first option you have is you can take a step back. Maybe you got the problems wrong. Maybe they aren't having any of those problems, but maybe there's another problem that you still can solve for them that you just didn't call out. Okay, sometimes there's tons of problems that you can help, right? And so you can take a step back if they're like, no, I'm actually not experiencing any of that, but I appreciate you reaching out. Okay, no worries. Take a step back. I could have been totally off. A lot of people that we speak with in your space are usually struggling with X, X, and X, and then you can throw out some other things. Are you seeing any of those at all where you're at? Or you can just directly be like, I speak with a lot of people in the space. Those are usually some of the things that they're struggling with, but I'm curious for you, like what's kind of top of mind from a sales standpoint, given that you hired on these new reps? What are you guys focused on, right? Maybe you can pivot to asking them what their goal is, what they're working toward, okay? And that can help you move the conversation forward and open them up, because really all you need is a goal or a problem that you can support, and that's enough for you to book a meeting, okay? If you can get them to be interested enough just by opening up about it, and that's what the next section is going to be about, then that's all you need for a meeting, really, okay? But if your reason for calling doesn't land, you can also call somebody else, guys. A lot of people think they have to, every single call, they have to high pressure their way into getting this person on a meeting. But in truth, if you get the wrong people on a meeting, if they're not interested, if they have bad energy, sometimes they just don't have a problem that you can solve, or maybe they just have something in place already. That's okay. A lot of times you can call other people. There's plenty of people. You have to have the abundance mindset. There's plenty of people out there, thousands and thousands of people that are right now having the problem and maybe even in more pain than the person that you're speaking to that has bad energy, that you can call and reach out to. And so your time is better spent, and your account executive time is better spent if you're calling and reaching out to those people that might have that problem versus trying to force somebody into it, okay? So this is a huge mindset switch as well. And the more you do that, the easier it is for you, the less friction you have to making calls, and the more you're going to perform, because the better people you're going to reach, you see? So then we move into open-ended questions around pain or goal. I would add goal, because you can use pain or goal. Now, people will relate to pain more. This is something that you'll learn. Problem-based language is super powerful. It's more powerful than goal-based language, because when people have a goal, they're usually not there yet. But people have problems, they usually are sitting in that pain. And if you can get them to open up about the pain they're sitting with currently, it's more of a drive to get them to take action. And so this is why it's more helpful to focus on pain than goal. But you can really do both. Okay, so what we do after this, let's say it landed and they'd be like, yeah, I appreciate you reaching out. We did hire on some new sales reps, and yeah, we've been kind of figuring out how to track things and stuff like that. I think we're doing good right now. They may say that, right? What can we do here? Well, we want to open up. We want them to open up. Okay, so what we can do is ask open-ended questions. Okay, I know when I first started out, it's so easy to just be like, well, are you struggling with this, or is this something that would help you, right? I was using too many closed-ended questions. Do you feel this? Are you feeling this? Is this something you feel like you want? This is bad because it doesn't get them to open up. And the reason we want them to open up is because letting them open up is going to give you more intel. It's going to give you more insight into who they are and what else is going on than if you just ask them a closed specific question, okay? It's going to be harder to get through to them if you're asking closed-ended questions only. And so to ask good open-ended questions, just ask questions that start with what, why, how, and when, right? And you want to use these strategically to go deeper, okay? The goal is to help them understand the scope of the problem. For example, you just want them to open up, and some people don't see the scope of the problem, right? Some people don't realize how painful their situation really is until they open up about it. Getting them to speak about it is going to make them realize, wow, this is really a big problem. And that's your job as a sales rep, to help them see so that you can help them, right? Some people are struggling unnecessarily because they don't know there's a solution, okay? They don't know there's a solution, and that's why we're here to help them. And so you can go deeper and just be like, how long has that been going on, right? What are you guys currently doing to manage this? How has that been affecting your team's ability to perform? Or what would it mean for the team if you were able to solve X, right? We're kind of like digging deeper and asking questions around the pain and potential problems that our company, your software, can solve, right? And so this is opening them up and it's helping them realize the scope of the problem. Does that make sense? Let me know in the comments if that clicks, guys. This is super high level stuff. And as a beginner, it may seem a little complex, but you'll get the hang of this soon, trust me. The next step, once we get them to open up and see the scope of the problem and kind of agree that, yeah, I do have this problem, the more they open up, the more they're going to, the deeper you understand someone's problem, the more they're going to believe that you have the solution. And so this is the whole thing that's taking place here. So the more that they open up, the more they're going to be curious and interested in how you can help. Okay. And as we said in the reason for calling, we're offering them help, right? So they already assume that you kind of have something that can solve it. So at this point, if you get them to open up, asking open-ended questions, they're going to be in a place where they're like, man, this is really painful. Okay. Sales is all driven by emotion. Okay, people take action based on emotion, not logic. And this is what we're doing. We're getting them in touch with the emotion of pain. And some of those open-ended questions can be super powerful in doing that. What would it mean for you to be able to solve this, right? You're going to get them in a dream state, an emotional state, right? How is this affecting the team currently, the team's current ability to perform? It's bad. We don't really have a way to see what's working and what's not. We don't really have a way to see if we hired good reps or not, right? That's painful for them. And once we have that, that's all we need to book the meeting. And so I like to go straight into asking for the meeting. Okay? Once you have them to open up about the problem, ask. I totally hear you. And look, we've been working with people in your exact shoes for X amount of years now. You can add some authority, right? Make it seem like you've been doing this a long time. This is something we hear all the time and have helped many people with. And if you're open to it, I'd love to extend an invitation for you to speak with one of our specialists here, account executives, where they can go deeper into what's kind of going on and they can walk you through how we might be able to help with that. I mean, would you be opposed to having maybe a 15, 30-minute conversation about that, right? This is also disarming. You notice how I'm using disarming language. I'm not saying, well, look, we need to have a call. I think it's really going to be super beneficial for you to have a call. Sometimes that can work, but you also don't want to give off pushy energy. I find that it's much easier to let them feel like they're making the choice instead of you forcing them into it. Because yes, you can book meetings by like being super high pressure. A lot of times those people are going to no-show. They're not going to show up. They're going to feel too much pull, too much need, too much desperation, too much quota breath, right? They may just agree with you to get off the phone. But if we're disarming, we're almost giving them a window to like get off the call. And that can be powerful because it's like a pull. It's like an attraction. It's like an energetic pull. Okay? There's a lot that goes into the script, guys. And so sometimes they'll be like, no. And if that's the case, just be like, how come? I mean, given what we've chatted about, it seems like you are struggling with this and it seems like this is really affecting the team. I mean, obviously there's no pressure to like process an investment or anything on this call. It's really more so just to kind of get an idea of if we can help and if it even makes sense to explore that further. I mean, is that something you're totally opposed to, right? You can kind of isolate, like just seek to understand, like why can't we do a meeting? Maybe there's something else. Maybe they're on vacation. Maybe it's something else, right? Isolate what it is and seek to understand it, because maybe there's still potential, but maybe you just want to follow up another time, right? Seek to understand, and this is honestly the best thing to do with any objection. You don't need to script all your objections. The easiest way to handle objections is just seek to understand what's actually going on. Why doesn't it make sense to chat? Why do you feel like you don't want to at least have a conversation about it, right? I'm not telling them we're going to buy that. We're telling them that call is going to be to buy it. It's going to be to explore it, right? A lot of times these software conversations take a few calls, right? Sometimes it can be longer. And so all we need to do is just lower the pressure, lower the resistance to have an initial call. Okay. And that's what you're measured on anyway in these roles. And that's what you get paid on for the most part. So that's really what you need to do. And this script is super good in doing that. Now, more than likely, if you're following this script correctly, they're going to say, Yeah, I'd love to have a call, right? Amazing. Well, we actually have a few slots open tomorrow or the next day. What time of day might you be able to fit in a quick chat, right? A lot of people, and I did this at the start a lot where I was like scared to like book a quick meeting. Um, and I was kind of like doing, well, do you have any time in the next couple weeks to have a chat? Like, that's not great because the more time spent in between when you booked the call and when you chatted with them, the less likely they're going to show up. It's just a statistical fact. And so what you can do, and what I did here, is we actually have a few time slots open tomorrow or the next day. We're giving them some options and we're making it feel like tons of people are trying to chat with us by saying we only have a few slots open, right? It's increasing the demand, and this is just sales principles, right? I mean, you could read like Robert Cialdini, whatever his name is. He talks a lot about all these things. This script is infused with so much potency in terms of psychology and principles that can help you move somebody and ultimately help somebody. We're not just manipulating people in the wrong way. Like I said before, if you're doing this correctly, you're going to have people that are grateful they picked up the phone. And that's our goal, okay? So once we get that, we can actually book the meeting. And this is quite logistical. Usually you're going to like open up the calendar. You're going to ask the person for their email. What's your email? You're going to put it in and you're going to book it, right? You're going to book it with your account executive. Now, in the process of doing that, usually I like to ask some qualifying questions. So what are qualifying questions? Qualifying questions are some questions that really see if it makes sense to have that conversation. And there's a few things that we want to look at. But the reason I booked a meeting before doing this is kind of different to what everybody does, is because booking the meeting is such a big hurdle. It's such a big, hairy elephant in the room that once you get over that, you can breathe and you can relax. And sometimes qualifying, seeing if it actually makes sense further, if they have budget, if they're the right person, all those things, if it's the right timeline, those things can sometimes be hard to ask, especially if you're a beginner. It can be intimidating to ask them, do you have budget, right? And I'm going to show you how to do it in a less intimidating way. But I always found that it's just easier to qualify it after I get it on the calendar, because if I find that after asking them some qualifying questions that it doesn't make sense to chat, maybe they don't have budget, I can always take the calendar off. I can always gracefully say, oh, well, look, man, it's been amazing to chat, or, well, look, person, it's been amazing to chat, but honestly, I feel like maybe we should touch base when this happens, and for now, I'll take the call off the calendar, right? So you can always do that if you need to, but I just find that getting the meeting booked, it makes it easier and lowers the resistance to asking them some hard questions. So qualifying questions, this is what it would flow into. Awesome. I've got you locked in for X time on X day with one of our specialists. Their name is X. They've been working with X companies, specifically like yours, for X years now. And I think you'll really find value from the conversation either way. You see, we're kind of lowering the pressure just to make sure our time can be spent the most valuable way for both of us. And then we go into asking them BANT. Okay, BANT is the framework that a lot of these tech companies, if you have an interview and you talk about BANT, they're going to be really impressed. This is the qualifying framework that these tech companies use to book meetings, okay, to qualify meetings, because BANT is the things you want to understand to see if it even makes sense for a deal to happen. Okay, if any of these are off, a deal can't happen, a closed deal can't happen, an investment can't be made. Okay, the first one is budget. And the way that I would ask them about budget is usually teams have budget for stuff like this. Hypothetically, if this is something that can help you guys, is this something your team is in a place to consider budget-wise, right? Sometimes companies don't have it, right? And a lot of times you can actually pre-identify this in the pre-research phase by just seeing a company that has structure. Do they have revenue? Like, you could just kind of tell. So, this is sometimes not necessary, but you can ask about this, okay? And it can be important. The next one is authority. And then appreciate you answering that, James. And another question, just how does the team usually navigate software decisions like this, right? Is there anyone else that is involved that might find value from having this conversation, that might be involved in the process of making a decision like this? I'd love to add them to the call. I think it could be beneficial, right? You could say something like that, okay? And now the reason you want to make sure that the person you're speaking to has authority is because sometimes people will just be interested in exploring software. Okay, and this is bad because you can have 1, 2, 3 calls. An account executive can have like 3 calls with them and realize that they're not even the person that can even buy it, right? A lot of times that is something that happens, and so you want to make sure you have the right person on. Now, it's okay to speak to someone who maybe can't make the final decision, but it's helpful to ask, okay, well, how does this work? Would it be helpful to get the person who makes that decision on the call? Because we're going to show you guys a lot of things about this, and I'd love for them to be plugged in so that they can understand what you guys are really exploring, so that when hypothetically, if you guys decide this is something that can help you, they're already up to speed, and it could save you guys time as well as us, right? So you see how authority is important. I hope that makes sense. The next one is need. Okay, now this one's already handled. You can't sell somebody something that doesn't have a need for it. I mean, you can, it's very hard. But need was already assessed in the open-ended questions part of this. If we identified pain, if we've gotten this far, we've already identified they have a need for what we have just by opening up about the pain. Now, you may run into a situation where you can't. They're not opening up about any pain or goal that you can solve, and that's okay. In that case, you can gracefully call someone else, like I said before, right? But this is another qualification metric, and usually if you've gotten this far, you've checked this box, which is amazing. The next one is timeline. A lot of teams work on different timelines, but would there be anything that would get in the way of your team being able to explore something like this right now? Okay, sometimes people are in contracts with other softwares. Sometimes people have other priorities, other business priorities that they're focused on that don't give them the time or bandwidth to actually really take something like this seriously, to explore this. Sometimes they may tell you, oh, we usually talk about software and making those decisions in Q4 or in December or whenever it is. And so this is helpful to know because this saves you guys time, and it saves you having to double your effort. Like, if you book a meeting for someone where they can't make a decision in December, chances are you're going to have to do the whole thing over again in December. So you might as well save you guys both time and follow up at a later point. So this is why it's important to ask about timeline, right? For both of you guys. It's helpful for both of you guys, you see? So that's how you can quickly go through this, and usually it's easy to because you already have it on the calendar. So you can basically use BAT. Honestly, just A and T, authority and timeline, are the biggest two. Honestly, you can do really well by just asking a couple questions about these, and then get them to confirm that they got the invite over email. This is super important. And then close the loop, right? Amazing. Well, my account executive looks forward to chatting then. I'll also send you a reminder email leading up to it just in case, which, by the way, will increase the chances that they show because you remind them of it in a personalized way before that call. And hopefully, if you're doing it right, it's just a couple days out, max like 5 days out, okay? And our only ask is that you just let us know if anything comes up and you can't make it, okay? This is helpful too because you want to make sure that if they can't make it, they tell you so that you don't expect a meeting to happen and then it doesn't happen and then you're behind on quota, right? You want to just let them know while you still have them on the phone, hey, let us know if you can't make it. We'd appreciate that. We want to value your time and also ours, right? Is that something you can commit to? This is going to really drill in the importance of the call. They're going to really see this is an important call that I'm going to show up to. And this is really, 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 really how you can get them to get you to increase the chances that they're going to show up, okay? Super important. So that's pretty much the whole script, guys. I would usually end the call right there. Another thing you can do is when you're saying, oh, well, my account executive looks forward to chatting them, you can hype them up saying, they've really worked with tons of people. I mean, maybe you can even say, we've worked with someone even just a couple weeks ago who was literally struggling with those things. And I think you're really going to get some value out of at least seeing that, right? And so that's super good. So I want to give you guys a bonus of this video, objection handling. Now, the thing about objections is they can happen anytime in a call. And this is why a word-for-word script never works. Now, the way that I script and the way that you're seeing things, it's kind of in sections. I go section by section, but I don't word-for-word script, okay? Scripts aren't bad, by the way, even if you word-for-word at the start. At the start of my journey, I was honestly writing custom reasons for calling, and when I went to go make calls, I had one ready so that I could just automate the calls and just read the script word for word. But you can also read a script without sounding scripty. Movie stars are the perfect example of this, right? A lot of people hate on scripts, but if you it's you don't know how to read them, right? A lot of people don't know how to read them. That's the people who hate on it, right? Movie stars have a script for the movie. They quite literally, word for word, are scripting out everything, okay? And so they deliver it in a way that's human, that's real. It's the same skill in sales. You can learn that and you can deliver it similarly, right? You don't have to be a movie star, but the same principle applies. You can deliver it in a nice way. I like using facial expressions. Well, does it even make sense to have a conversation? You can do that. You can be human. You can visualize you actually speaking to them, right? And this can help you not sound scripty. But objections can be thrown at you anytime, okay? There's two types of objections. Type 1, and I'm going to have deeper videos on this, but just briefly, type 1 is knee-jerk objections. This usually happens during your opener, okay, before you even get a chance to give them the reason you're calling. This can sound like, I'm at the doctor right now, call me back. I can't talk right now. Is this a sales call? Call me back later, please. This is a bad time, right? These are knee-jerk objections, meaning they're not legitimate objections to exploring your solution. It's just objections to the phone call, right? This is called a knee-jerk objection. And the way to handle these is quite simple, actually. You can do all of these the same. You could say, if they say anything, right? Oh, well, no worries, man. Like, I'd be happy to call you back at a better time. Do you have a few seconds now to just give you the reason I called you in the first place, to see if it even makes sense for me to call you back? That's something that you can do to, usually they'll be like, yeah, I have a few seconds, shoot. And then when you give that reason for calling, if it's good, usually they'll give you the time of day to continue, because a lot of times people are just trying to get off the phone when really they do have time to talk. And especially if you have a compelling reason for calling them, they're going to give you the time of day, because everybody has time, guys. You could also say, if they ask you, is this a sales call, which can sometimes happen, look, I'll be honest, this is a sales call, and I know it's kind of out of the blue here, but I promise you, this is well researched, and look, I won't be upset if you hang up now, but is it at least worth hearing why I wanted to speak with you specifically, right? You could say that, right? Just be honest. Yes, this is technically a sales call, but really it's a well-researched one, and honestly, I'd love to give you the reason I called. If you're open to it, feel free to hang up. But if you want to roll the dice, I'd be happy to share why I called you specifically. Something like that can work very well, okay? Type 2 objections, the other type of objection, are legitimate business objections. This is when you're actually in the conversation, right? And this can happen at any time after the opener, after the reason for calling, where they may say, well, we actually don't have budget, man, not the right time, or it's not the right time, or I'm just not interested, right? These are legitimate objections, and these can be handled by just one thing. You could just seek to understand it, okay? You honestly, with any objection, you can't just say the perfect thing to handle it, okay? You first have to seek to understand it. So you have to ask them, can you tell me more about what do you mean by that? Why isn't it the right time? What do you mean by you don't have budget? Is there a specific time of year where you guys have budget? Can you just tell me more about what you mean? Do you guys have something in place that you can't afford this, that maybe we can replace, right? There's so many different variables, right? Not interested. Why is that? Do you have something already? Are you not interested because it's not the right time? You don't know what it is. And so this is why you want to ask them, what do you mean by that? Seek to understand. And this can help you so much, because you don't need to have the answer to every objection. Just seek to understand it. Go deeper. And usually when you do that, the next thing is going to become clear. For example, if they'll say, oh, it's just not the right time, amazing. Go deeper into that. When is the right time, right? Maybe you can reverse engineer. Well, usually, okay, well, you guys, timing is better a couple months from now. I'll be honest, usually with our software, based on what you know, usually it can take even a couple months to, explore it fully and consider it and cross all the hoops that are needed to be confident that it's a solution that you want to invest in. Typically what we see, it can be beneficial to have an initial conversation now, so we make sure we're not rushing it when that time comes. You could say something like that, you see? And so you want to seek to understand first, and only then is it going to become clear what to say, okay? And usually that's going to become natural, guys, okay? So let me know in the comments what you're finding valuable. I've given you guys, actually, I'm going to give you guys this document, okay? One of the links in the description is going to be to download this for free. I'm going to give you guys this whole guide. This is kind of a walkthrough. This one is going to be one that you can literally have side by side while you're making calls, okay? that you can script it, because as a beginner, it's going to be helpful to use a script. Think of yourself as like Leo DiCaprio and be a movie star with the script, okay? Practice it, read it. Don't sound scripted. Use tonality. Change facial expressions as you do it. Add some humanization to it, okay? I promise you, if you guys start implementing this way, for most tech companies out there, especially B2B, this is going to work phenomenally, okay? Phenomenally, okay? So amazing, guys. Like I said, if you feel like you're someone who's trying to break into tech sales, break into your first role, maybe you're watching this because you're trying to understand tech sales so that you can, break into a role and show that you know what you're talking about on an interview. If you're someone who's trying to do that, this is what I'm helping people with in my one-on-one mentorship. I actually recently opened up new spots again after closing some off for that period where I'm going all in on my clients. I can only work with so many people, but at a time, which is why I closed them off and opened them up. If you're interested in getting some one-on-one help, I offer a free consultation with me. The first link in the description is where you can book that call, and it's no pressure, guys. You can chat with me one-on-one. I'll understand what your goal is, what you're trying to do, where you're at, and I'll see if it makes sense for me to even tell you how my mentorship works and if it makes sense, right? And if it doesn't work out for you, or if I feel if I feel it's not a fit, I'll just let you know that. We can go our separate ways. There's absolutely no pressure. Feel free to book that if you're trying to break into tech sales and want to break into a desirable role and be making good money, 4 to 5 to 6K per month from the start, with a clear progression track to account executive to 6 figures, which is what I've been helping people with for over a year now. I also wrote a full free book that you can get if you're not in a position where you feel like you want mentorship. People have literally read this book. It's completely free. Third link in the description for that. It's literally a full step-by-step guide of breaking into your first tech sales role. I've had people read that and break into their first roles, desirable roles, even with that alone. But everybody's in a different spot. Depends on how fast you want to go. It depends on, it depends on what you want to settle for. If you feel like you don't have the confidence to present yourself to these big companies, right? That's where mentorship can come in. But check that out in the third link in the description. Grab that for free, and hopefully that helps. Let me know in the comments if you enjoyed this video, guys. This is one of my passions that I enjoy, is helping people get into desirable tech sales roles, because this is what helped me make my first 6 figures, 10K plus per month, and put me in a position where I had more leverage for life to invest in the things that I want, to start moving toward business, because sales is the best vehicle, in my opinion, for business, right? Because sales is business. You're learning it from the inside, and it's something I'm passionate about, helping younger versions of me who are lost after school or working a 9 to 5, where you're kind of in a cubicle or just stuck in one location, and you want to work remotely and be able to Airbnb hop or just travel more, or have a skill that you can do from your laptop that can generate you a lucrative income, right? So this is one of the things that helped me after trying so many different ways to make money online and stuff like this. This is the vehicle that really saved me. So amazing, guys. So that's all for now. I'll see you in another one. I'm out. Take care. Bye.